of the trophy. The Americans searching for speed as they bid to cling on to their crown. New Zealand leading 3-0 and so far unbeaten in the match. Another glorious Bermuda day. Conditions, though, right on the edge in terms of wind speed. We're hoping for up to 12 knots this afternoon, but the breeze is pretty light, has been a bit variable. There is a chance of some disruption to the schedule. So the USA have port entry for this first race of the day. They get to enter the starting box 10 seconds ahead of their opponents. And the pre-start, as ever, the most intriguing of battlegrounds. Let's check in with Freddie Carr, who's a key member of the British team out here. He's out on the water for us today. Freddie, what changes do you expect to see from the USA in particular, from Spithill, regarding the starting policy? Because it hasn't been working for him so far.
Yeah, their starting policy so far didn't really go that well for them last weekend. Since I've been out on the water, they've just done pre-start after pre-start after pre-start, going through their drills. And I must say, to the naked eye, you can see that the boat looks a little bit lighter. Something's changed, and the Americans look quite slippery on their practice reaches. They definitely look like they've taken a step forwards in boat speed.
Great stuff, Freddie. Excellent intel. That's why you're out there.
Killing very greedy. 100 above.
So race number 5 is underway, and we get our first chance to analyse just exactly how Jimmy Spithill's Americans have changed things. Have they come up with any answers to the speed and the consistency of Burling's New Zealanders? Ken, how are you reading this pre-start?
Well, both boats again are tracking back to the starting line quite early. 45 seconds to go, and you'll see that starting line at the top of our screen. Team New Zealand taking solace down at that ley line. That yellow line is about as close as they ever want to get. They've gotten down there, and Oracle cannot hook anymore. They're going to be committed to the high side.
14 to kill.
We're talking about 14 to kill. This is still a lot of time to kill for these two boats. Oracle just speeding up the line with 17 seconds left. Now they're slowing down. This is going to be about time and distance.
5 to kill.
So the Americans picked up a penalty on the start line in the first race of the match. They'll be needing to be very careful here. They're perilously close as the clock ticks down. They are across the line too early. Yet again, they've gone too soon. And the New Zealanders will look to make hay in the meantime. Oracle Team USA have to drop 2 boat lengths behind the Kiwis. So advantage New Zealand yet again at the start.
That was very, you know, in the first race that Oracle Team USA was over early, they were just close, they were tight, they got themselves into a tough spot. That was just pulling the bow down too soon and simply going for it with a fraction of a second not in the bag. I mean, that was super close. I'm sure we'll see a review of that, but that was very close. But man, would Jimmy Spithill like that one back.
Screaming across the water then, up on the foils at 30+ knots. And the Kiwis in front at Mark 1. They're close to 40 knots with a wind speed of only 8.5 knots. So it really gives you some kind of indication as to just how much pace can be generated by these flying machines. So into gate 2 with the New Zealanders out in front and able to dictate a little bit. What's the decision going to be here from the USA? They're going to follow them around the mark. They've opted not to split the course.
Oracle's kept it close. Remember, by the first gate in the first couple races, there was quite a wide gap. You know what? This is boat speeds and BMG up the race course that we haven't seen out of Oracle.
Some encouraging signs for Jimmy Spithill's crew.
Dial down. So starboard tack advantage to Oracle. Dial down. Emirates Team New Zealand has to dip behind. The first pass we've seen in this event. This 5 days of work, was it worthwhile? And sure enough, they're quicker right now. There's no doubt.
there's two standout things to me right now as I was right in next to Oracle then. They're not dropping their dagger board all the way down to extension, so they're effectively not going all the way to extension as that opens up the angle, that makes the board faster. Another dial down here. New Zealand dial them down, Oracle take the transom. And the other thing is their rudders look really different to me, a step closer to New Zealand's rudders.
Getting Freddie excited out on the water. 2 passes early in the race. Thank you, Freddie, by the way. 2 passes already, both on starboard tack advantages, 2 very equal boats. Both boats protesting on that last dial down. My guess is we're going to have a green again. There won't be any flags. Tell you what, though, the umpires are taking their sweet time talking about this one.
He's got a penalty.
So protests have been lodged, and the Americans have picked up the penalty. Second of the race. How costly might that be? This is where it happened.
Dial down. They determined that Emirates Team New Zealand, the starboard tack boat there, had to get out of the way. Boy, these guys, you can just see on board, these guys didn't think they did anything wrong, but they have to drop back another 2 boat lengths. One mistake, and that gets eaten up in no time. Oracle's going to have to tack one more time for this mark, I think. Emirates Team New Zealand did a very nice job of finding the ley line, one and in. Oracle had to tack because of the boundary, most likely, and they're going to probably have to tack one more time.
There's a shot from our drone, chasing in behind the Kiwis.
We are trying to get the drone driver to get it between those hulls right off the water. They're a little skeptical.
He knows that these guys have a fast boat and a very slick system. We're seeing Simon van Veldhoven. He's the Olympic cyclist from 2012. Head down.
Yeah, room around town. He actually hasn't seen any race yet. We all talk about the power, and we'll get into the power a little bit more and how they're accumulating and using the hydraulic energy. But listen, the windage and the ability for the cyclists to use their hands to help do other parts of the boat, help maneuver other parts of the boat, is clearly a huge byproduct of the cyclers.
And it is so straightforward, seemingly. When you're Peter Burling, nothing is complicated. 26-year-old, entirely unflustered, taking a wonderfully uncomplicated approach to this whole campaign. It's victorious over the British and Irish Lions early this morning in Auckland in the first test match. And thousands of New Zealanders here in Bermuda enjoying yet another success, another hammer blow delivered by the Kiwis. They have powered into a 4-0 lead in the America's Cup match. They need 3 race wins to the trophy, and the dominance continues. You've got to ask yourself at this point, just what on earth can the USA do to hold their momentum?
But this time around, this match was about, this race was about mistakes. We've heard Jimmy Spithill come back in and say, you know what, we felt okay. And all of us used our eyeball test and said, wait a second. You guys, those last weekend, you guys look pretty slow to all of us, all the rest of us in the real world. Today, I'm not so sure. I think they come in and say, you know what, you guys, we were quick. We were quick on the first reach. We made a mistake. We caught them twice. We made a mistake. And then all of a sudden, the wheels kind of fell off. I think they're way more in the game than they were last weekend.
Well, we'll try and get a view from Jimmy Spithill shortly to discover if he's feeling confident and positive in the same manner, but the margin of victory is another big one. It's pretty quiet out there. Is this a team reassessing? Is this a team digesting the margin of victory for the New Zealanders?
Right up there, boys, and get ready for the next one.
Yeah, they've got to go big in the next one because this match is getting away from them.
I think we're going to try a little more out, eh? They're going at times. Yeah.
Talking about you happy with the rudders. They're going at times. That means they're probably stalling or cavitating a little bit at times. They can move that rake around a little bit. There's a finite amount that can go between the two rudders. I believe it's 3.5 degrees, but they'll do some fine-tuned detailing to try to gain a little more speed going into this next race.
So across the finish line and plunging down, but beyond 2 minutes from the Kiwis. That's the biggest margin so far. For all their extra boat speed, if that is what they seem to have found, that is still a crushing blow. Here's the race summary leg by leg.
Yep, over early. Can't do it. Can't make mistakes, Jimmy. That's the bottom line. He knows it. We know it. We're not saying anything out of school. What this doesn't show is a couple passes. Oracle actually coming back and gaining the lead at one stage, but give the New Zealanders a sniff, and off they go.
So confirmation of the Kiwi victory. 2 minutes and 4 seconds quicker than Oracle Team USA in race 5. They've won 5 from 5. And of course, let's not forget that the Americans effectively put their opposition on -1 at the outset because they won the qualifying stage. That's why the Kiwi lead is 4-0.
Ready now? 3, 2, 1, turning. Up, 6 to cover. 5 in the kill.
That was very well done by Burling. It looked marginal there for a second. And he did enough to keep his speed and keep the overlap from happening. And now it's just time and distance, boat speed to Mark 1.
So it looks like both boats are going to be across the line clean this time. And the Americans getting up on the foils nice and quick. And they've stolen a march this time on the New Zealanders. Could this be the time just to reach Mark 1 in front?
Yeah, did a better job of pulling the trigger there. No doubt about it. Had a little more momentum going off the line, and I think they're going to be able to roll over the top of Emirates Team New Zealand and use their wing wash to push them back a couple more boat lengths. But I tell you what, it's still close. Emirates Team New Zealand living in a really precarious spot right there. Just below the wing wash. You see that wing wash? They are just barely living in clear air, but sure enough, Oracle gets over the top.
So that's a turnaround. That is a change from the complexion of things out here in Bermuda during the America's Cup match so far. Oracle Team USA rounding Mark 1, heading downwind in the lead.
Fascinating to see if the mindset changes on Emirates Team New Zealand. They literally haven't been behind except for about a minute during that last race.
What do we read into the early jibe, Ken?
Well, it's the same as that the first run in the last race. Oracle just being a little bit unstable. They're going to have to get pace on quick, or Emirates Team New Zealand's going to roll over the top. They were clearly unstable coming out of that jibe. That's exactly, you can hear it in his voice. That's what Jimmy Spithill is very fearful of in this new setup that they've pulled out after 5 days in the shed. But then they go. Once they go, they go. But can they avoid that instability? I think the sailing world is looking for a great race right now. I mean, let's have a great race. Let's show these things off the way they should be showed off. Let's get a great race in here. And from all accounts, the start of it looks just like Emirates Team New Zealand just putting the pressure on and rounding the same gate. No split. They have some decisions to make. You know, now the boats are split. Who's going to sail in the better wind pressure?
It takes something special, that's for sure.
How often can you do it?
Just nailing it on the consistency front. But Jimmy Spithill will feel a lot happier at the moment. The Americans with a slender advantage.
Boats rounding this gate on opposite sides. So the possibilities of wind shifts or wind pressure, making a little more of a game of it on this next run.
One off, Doc. One off. Yeah, copy.
Clean manoeuvring from Jimmy Spithill's crew as they disappear up one side and the New Zealanders heading off in another direction.
It's Team New Zealand down here. Oracle, big angle change going up into it. That's a wind shift. just don't go away. Goodness gracious.
Well, that's bold from New Zealand, really bold. And is it going to pay off at this bottom gate? They turn, and they turn in front, and they turn well. And now the Americans are the ones chasing again. So where's your money now, Ken?
I'm pretty stunned at that last turn of events. Kiwis just did such a good job staying in the dark water.
Good lefty in 15.
Desperately, they need 117 meters right now. Little dark water in the upper left-hand side of the race course. That's what they need. They need a wind shift. They need the breeze to possibly go in their favor. Doesn't look super windy on the right side of the race course where the Kiwis is right now.
4, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1, mate. Turning. Missing it. Feels like you're turning early, Jimmy. Start the boundary. Good game here, guys. Copy. Look at them. His motor is on.
So they wanted to go a little bit wider so they could maybe lay the gate, get in the first time.
Big gain. There's a dial down already happening with Emirates Team New Zealand right now. Look at that dial down. They're really deep.
Nothing in it. The protest from the USA.
They dialed way down. They dialed low there. This is going to be very interesting. Whether they went too far on their dial down is the big question. It is in Richard Slater's hands right now. No penalty. Now, the boats come back together again. Oracle will be on starboard. New Zealand will be on port. If they get into that left-hand circle on the left-hand mark, they will have right away to get around it. But here we go again. We wanted real racing. We got real racing. And if he dips, will he be able to make this mark in the upper court? Is he going to be able to make that mark after the dip?
Just the closest of passes.
Sing it in, boys.
And the Kiwis are just about going to squeeze in. But look at him.
Just gets around the mark. Barely.
Really low.
Game on. Even race. Slight advantage to Oracle right now. Dead straight ahead. You see the finish line right in the front of our screen. I'll tell you what, Oracle stays in. You can't give this team a bigger congratulations for just about a shellacking last week to throw everything at this over the last 5 days and come up with a boat that's going this much faster. I myself, as well as just about everybody else in the sailing world, was starting to write them off.
They're going to hold off the Kiwi challenge. The New Zealanders have been gaining down this reach, but they won't have enough. It is going to be America's race. And the USA are back in business, back in the hunt, and in the nick of time. A vital win, which really breathes life into their alien campaign. There is hope. There is hope in the USA camp. The margin of victory, a small one, but it matters not.
Good work. Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. There you go.
Whole team effort and leadership is always a massive part of that, but you can't get enough credit to the entire Oracle Team USA squad, top to bottom, for doing what they have clearly done over the last 5 days. Like I said before, I think all of us thought, how do you pull that off? There was quite a disparity last weekend, and I'm really impressed.
So let's see the race in a little more detail in terms of the split times at the end of each leg.
This is all the sailing world wanted to see, was unbelievably cool racing, tons of passing, all kinds of dips, dial downs, fouls, protests. Here we go. I mean, let's just hope that this is a sign of what we have to come for the rest of this event, because that was a spectacular boat race.
So it's a fabulous day in the village there, and they've had some great action to get their teeth into as well, Kenny. Let's have a look at some of the best bits.
Well, it started off not so well for the home team. Oracle Team USA obviously looking to avoid penalties, and sure enough, second number one, barely over. We heard Jimmy Spithill tell us that on their numbers, they didn't think they were, but here's something we hadn't seen. We saw speed out of Oracle that we haven't seen before. A pass on leg 2. When we saw in the first weekend of this competition, Emirates Team New Zealand get ahead, well, sure enough, they would just leg it out, and it wasn't really that close. Oracle is coming back in this race. Again, a huge testimony to their entire team. What we also saw, though, were dropping off the foils, more instability. That's something that we've heard the sailors talk about all the time. Fast may not mean stable. Fast might mean thin foils, really thin foils that don't have that grip to lift the boat out of the water. So sure enough, some good signs, but not some good signs as well. Race 2, again, different story. Really good trigger pull by Jimmy Spithill off the line. Very tough maneuver coming down into gate number 1, but they're ahead. And remember, when Emirates Team New Zealand is ahead at Mark 1, they have never lost a race before. Well, they're not ahead, so your chances of all of a sudden become better. But don't let your foot off the pedal, because these guys are going to come back. Here was a really interesting move. Definitely what we thought was an overstand. They go out beyond that yellow line on Oracle Team USA. Emirates Team New Zealand makes the mark, but Oracle gets back at him again. Again, an amazing comeback. They got a couple wind shifts at the top of the race course, a little dial down. Emirates Team New Zealand barely sneaks around the mark, and the race was off. Oracle had the pace. They won a race, and great job by the entire team.
Well, it's been terrific to see the Americans coming back into the picture here today. Another fascinating day on the water, and results, well, a win each for the Kiwis and for the Americans. The New Zealanders now standing with a 4-1 lead. Remember, New Zealand started on -1 point due to the American success in the qualifiers. First to 7 race wins for the trophy. The match resumes tomorrow. 2 more races scheduled. The winds again forecast to be pretty light. It means New Zealand won't be winning this trophy tomorrow. We will be racing for sure on Monday now. And the 35th America's Cup match is building nicely to a finish here on the Great Sound. New Zealand as the challenger, leading 4-1, but the USA are back in business. We look forward to your company tomorrow. From Ken Reid and myself here in Bermuda, it's goodbye.